Senior advisor to DHS, retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and Maryland congressional candidate Bernie Flowers. Good to see you back here, as well as aerospace engineer, aviation attorney, and former pilot himself, Arthur Rosenberg. Pleasure to have you both on. Arthur, I'm going to start with you. Just want to get your reaction of what we just heard from NTSB there, that there was no transponder. That's kind of sticking out to me and Katrina. On the truck that collided with the plane, and then also the comments about air traffic controllers doing multiple things at one time or other responsibilities here. And do you think that led to what just happened there?
Yeah, okay, so let's start with the fire truck. There's a system called the ASDEX system. It's a ground-based radar transponder system. What does it mean in plain English? If the fire truck had this piece of equipment in it, a transponder, it would emit a signal which goes to something that looks like a radar screen in the control cab, but it shows only ground vehicles moving. Apparently, this vehicle did not have the transponder, others did, and they're offering that up to suggest it's a fact, perhaps some confusion. However, I'll say this. I don't believe, based on what we know, that this controller was actually looking at that screen. He had a visual line of sight to the fire truck and gave that fire truck a clearance to cross the runway. So I'm not sure what the significance of it is. The ASDX system is very important. NTSB has been recommending it for years. Apparently, it fell short here. As far as the combined position of the ground controller and the local controller, this is shades of Reagan National. The night of Reagan National, they had one poor guy up in the cab controlling the military corridor, the civilian corridor. You would think lessons learned, apparently not. Here, Laguardia Airport, 11:30 or so at night, it's still very busy. You get close to midnight, there's a shift change. The local controller is now handling all the air traffic, the active runway, all the ground movements. And there's a second controller. He's more in a supervisory role, unclear exactly what he was doing. But when you combine all these elements, and it's one of the things I want to talk about, when you combine all these elements, it creates a confluence of circumstance, never one cause for an accident. You can see why this happened. The last thing I just want to comment on is that the DFDR, the digital flight data recorder, which they've downloaded the information, not the voice cockpit recorder. The flight data recorder showed 6 seconds prior to it cutting off, which is probably consistent with the impact with the fire truck. The controls of the airplane went from the first officer, the co-pilot, to the captain. Very, very unusual. In that regime of flight, you almost never take over control of an airplane. So they knew or they could see what was happening in front of them.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. The NTSB, Bernie, I want to get you in here in a second, but the NTSB, during that presser, they did report that the first officer flying then transferred control to the captain. So interesting here, as we will learn more. Bernie, just overall what you're seeing about this particular incident, but also then, what we know about the lack of funding for DHS. Senator Thune saying that actually there might be some movement there potentially today, maybe by the end of the week. Just sum it up for us.
Katrina and Bob, first of all, I take a lot of happiness from the fact that Senator Mullen was approved, because that tells me that the president's team, his insiders, his chief of staff, the people on the very inside of his system, they're working with the Democrats. They're making things happen. The Democrats should not be holding up America's safety and security. There's no reason to hold anything from transportation, from FAA. These things sort of things happen when you hold money back from our critical infrastructure.
Yeah, when people aren't getting paid and they have to pay the rent and feed their families, things can definitely fall apart quickly. Hopefully things turn around quickly as well. Bernie, Arthur, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.